Hi, Katarina.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for sparing your time to be interviewed today. I am thrilled to have you on my show, and it's about relationship. I can vouch that I am also struggling in this department of
Okay,
my life.
perfect,
So let's
perfect.
let's dive into it. For
Okay,
our
yeah.
listeners today, I would like to introduce myself and to you as well. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. First off, I'd like to say thank you very much for taking the time to be interviewed today. And before we start, I'd like to read a bit of an introduction for our listeners, and then we can get right into our conversation. So, hello everyone, we have Katarina Polonska with us, specializing in helping execs and entrepreneurs be as successful in their relationships as they are in their careers. Katarina is an ICF accredited high performance relationship coach, gender dynamics social scientist, and founder of the Successfully in Love R method. Okay, there's so many acronym and jargons here. You need to help me break it down later. Okay, her work focuses on the behavioral science of attraction and helping accomplished professionals find healthy, secure, meaningful love fast. Wow, okay. I need to sign up for this. As an ambitious woman with a master's degree from the University of Oxford and background in behavioral science, she's had a lot of experience in the role of dating and relationships. From living and working in 6 different countries, helping her parents navigate a painful divorce, battling anorexia, to calling up an unhealthy engagement, she understands how hard it is when we don't want to settle in life, but do want to meet our match and settle down. Yes. Using her proven 3-phase process based on the behavioral science of attraction, Katarina helps disheartened executives create their ultimate relationship and become successful in love. Wow. Okay, now I know why I needed you on the show.
Amazing. Yeah, do it.
So, Katarina, please share with us, what was it like growing up as Katarina Polanska?
Ooh, good question. Where to start? I mean, I grew up with very high achieving parents, and I was an immigrant. So I was born in Slovakia, where I am right now, and came to England when I was 4. So I was very young, but still kind of felt, being like the newcomer and having to adjust to a new country. And yeah, my parents moved because they believed in the potential of being in the UK more than in Eastern Europe. And I think they were right. Like, I went to a really good girls' school and got a lot of opportunities there that I think I would never have got. But the high achieving life was hard, right? Like, it was a lot of pressure to be performing, to do well, to get the grades, to, like, be the little perfect kid. And obviously no kid is perfect. We're all perfect in our own unique ways, but perfect is such a ridiculous standard. And yeah, I think that pressure really got to me growing up, because when I was 15, I developed anorexia. I didn't even know what anorexia was. I just knew at this, elite girls' school that to fit in and to do well as a woman, I had to be really thin. And I knew that when I'm thin, I'm also showing that I'm disciplined, that I'm healthy, that I'm athletic, and all of these things that actually made me more popular. So I kind of experienced my first kind of play in the gender dynamic space and how unhealthy it can be, because it was very toxic. And so when I was 17, I healed from the anorexia, or kind of healed as best as I could back then. And then went on to university when I was 18 and, kind of lived my life. But I will say, I think that kind of high achieving pressure was really tough. On the one hand, it was amazing because I think it did make me stretch to really ambitious goals. On the other hand, I think it's been kind of my downfall for so much in my life, and actually got me into that wrong engagement with my first fiance. And that's really sparked me to be inspired to work with other, high performing, high achieving individuals, because we can often trip ourselves up without even realizing we're tripping ourselves up. And it's not our fault. It's just the way that we've been conditioned to think and to be. And yet we deserve to be, happier. And there's a lot more to life than just high achieving. So that really kind of inspired me to go down the line of work that I'm in now. That was the answer. Sorry for that.
I love it. No. I could relate on certain parts, especially on the overachieving. I think my parents, how do I say this? Parents always taught me to view education as the key to changing life. So I didn't come from that well of background. So I understood it then that okay, if they can give me such a good, if they can only give me so much, then it's up to me to take the next step. And then so it's sort of also conditioned that studies, getting good jobs, sorry, the grades, and then the job, and then the status, and then
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
your life is settled.
yeah.
So, but obviously it's not like that until I got humbled very fast. So, yes, okay. Now we're gonna go into the next question. I'd love to ask, what is the behavioral science of attraction?
Mm. Okay, so the behavioral science of attraction is kind of two things. If you know about behavioral science, you know that behavioral science is a really brilliant term that encompasses psychology, neuroscience, social science, like a lot of the different sciences that really make up who we are and how we behave. And so I've been a behavioral scientist for like many, many years. I was a social scientist originally, then behavioral scientist. And now, even though I've trained in psychological realms, I still prefer behavioral science because to me, it's like more all encompassing. So that's kind of one thing. It looks at the psychology and the neuroscience and like the environment that we're in and how that plays out. Again, specifically kind of thinking about, being in a high achieving mentality in the modern day. And then the second part of it is you've probably heard of law of attraction and, manifestation and all of that. And whilst a lot of it is a load of garbage, like, it's kind of been very oversimplified by a lot of the pop culture thought leaders and the sound bites, the kind of the fundamentals of it are true. It works, right? And whatever we believe on an unconscious level is really what we're going to see out there and what we're going to attract. Like that is neuroscience. And so when I talk about the behavioral science of attraction, what I'm really getting at is helping people understand what are they attracting on an unconscious level into their lives from a romantic relationship point of view. What do they need to be attracting if they want to be actually happy? And how can they go about attracting that? These are the three pillars of the behavioral science of attraction that I work with and help people with.
Okay, for those listening, I'm actually just mesmerized by Katarina right now because if you guys are not seeing the video, she she looks like a model right in front of me, and I'm like,
my God, I love you.
I'm like, okay, I think from the answer you gave, I got 20% of it. So can you please break it down? 3 pillars. So
Yeah.
no, I've never had a guest, yeah, such as yourself. So I am very flustered right now.
You're the best.
I'm very shy. Okay, yes, you were saying so three
Pillars.
pillars. Okay, and then number 1 was what was it?
It was looking at what are you unconsciously attracting. So if you're someone who maybe you've been single your whole life, or actually what I see a lot of with high achievers is that they're always traveling, they're always like relocating to new countries, they're always like looking the next place to live or the next job or the next city. That's a pattern that you're unconsciously attracting, right? And you're being single within that process. So it's really looking at what are you unconsciously attracting and why are you unconsciously attracting that so that we can change that, right? That's
but yeah, but then isn't that like because we create that, right? We are that, and therefore we attract that. So
yeah.
Yes.
However, I would say like we create that on an unconscious level, and it might not be the best thing to be creating for us to be happy. So for example, I spent so much of my life attracting men who were very like distant, like either physically distant, like literally my first ever boyfriend was a long distance relationship.
Okay, I'm in one now, so and it's off. Okay,
Right.
Katrina, this is why I need you. Okay, yes, break it down for me, please.
I got my details. I spent a lot of my time attracting like people who are really far away, and then if they weren't physically distant, they were emotionally distant or, intellectually distant because actually we didn't really understand each other. I had this pattern of dating men who were just like distant. And now I was choosing those men. Absolutely. I was going on Bumble and finding them and then, dating them. Like that was my choice. Was it the kind of choice that was making me happy? No, it wasn't, because the choice is coming from an unconscious place, a wounded place within me, but I was recreating the pattern of being with a distant father, right? Because my father was very distant throughout my life. And so that felt familiar to me. That was normal to me. That was what I was used to from a psychological point of view, from a nervous system point of view. It's what felt normal and safe. And so on an unconscious level, because I wasn't aware of the patterning, I kept attracting that. And it was when I broke off my first engagement that I was like, I don't want that anymore. Like, I don't want distant men. I want like a man who's going to be present with me emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, physically. And so in order to get that, in order to attract that, which is what I needed, I had to look at the patterns beneath it, right? Which is like pillar one. So looking at what is it that I'm unconsciously attracting? What do I need to be attracting? A healthy, secure, wonderful man. And how do I go about attracting that? Which is the techniques and the tools that I teach my clients so that they can also get more conscious of what they're bringing into their lives so that life is just better for them.
Yeah. 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 I think there'll be a lot of people coming, messaging you after this. One of them would be me.
Amazing.
Okay, what's the common mistake people make in their relationship?
Oh, yeah, that's a really good question. I think the most common mistake that I see, and I did this mistake too, is people get into a relationship. Well, there's kind of two mistakes here. Mistake one is assuming, and we all, I think, assume this to a large extent, and it's not our fault, it's a societal construct. But there's an assumption that when I'm ready to settle down, when I'm ready to find the one or find the partner, it'll happen for me. And it's kind of inevitable. Like, of course I'm going to find someone. Of course I'm going to get married or have that lifelong partner, maybe have a family. Like, of course I am. And so there's an assumption that it will just happen. We don't really have to worry about it or put time or thought into it. It'll just unfold. And when you know, when you find the person, you know, right? Which, again, just so many things wrong with that. So there's an assumption that we don't have to do anything. And then the second big mistake is people make decisions on who they end up in a relationship with largely based on what they want, right? Like, I want the guy who's like 6'3" and, you know, like has blonde hair and has a lot of money and whatever like rubbish qualifiers that are there. What
Everybody would be like, okay.
But actually, like, all of these different qualifiers, even saying things like, oh, you know, he's kind and he's got a good sense of humor and all, I don't know why it does that.
See, we've got a thumbs up there.
Yeah, right. All of these different things, it's like, they're nice things that we want, but they have no indication on whether we're actually going to be happy with that person. And they definitely have no indication on whether it's what we actually need. I mean, kindness, obviously everyone needs kindness, but like what we need is going to be very different to what we want, right? And by that, what I mean is, like, I'm a classic example here. I spent my whole life as a high achieving woman looking for men who are high achieving men who typically would be taller than me, wealthier than me, and more money than me, like be more like successful than me, right? And be someone that I can look up to and be a role model and maybe help me and mentor me. And like, daddy issues, anyone? But anyhow, like looking at people who are going to be somehow people I could admire, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted. And I wanted him to be this, like, you know, Mr. Big character from Sex and the City who I could just like be rescued by. That's what I wanted.
Be submissive to.
Right. Never been conditioned into, and what I see so many women conditioned into. And I also had the narrative of, you know, I can't date anyone who I'm going to be smarter than or, you know, more successful than because there'll be jealousy and I'll emasculate him and blah, blah, blah. Right? So the assumption was like, I have to date him. And dating up.
Oh, shit. Flashbacks right now.
Right.
Okay.
And dating looked like, what did dating up look like? It looked like money, status, career, probably
possessions,
right?
Yeah. Wealth.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So all of this, the problem is when I was in those kind of relationships, it wasn't what I needed. Why? Because at the heart of it, I am an ambitious, like, go-getting, pretty entrepreneurial person. Like, I'm quite passionate. I have a lot of passion for like philanthropy and social justice and like, you know, gender equality and helping women and all of these wonderful things. And what I really needed was a man who was going to support me in that quest, a man who would actually support me to go and fulfill my full potential and my intellect and my ambition and my drive and my desire to change the world and make the world a better place. I wasn't necessarily going to get that from someone just because he's like a rich banker, right? It's a different persona that we're looking at here, potentially. Not saying that all bankers are obviously not that, but again, it's looking more at like, what do we need, right? Also, what I needed was someone who's going to be with me. I don't do well with people who are, traveling all the time. And again, that kind of distance, which, let's do the math. If someone's very, very successful, the odds are they're probably going to be on a plane a lot of the time. They're going to be traveling a lot of the time, right? And so in the end, when I really got clear on what I need, like the different qualities that I need, like the life that I need, and I only got clear on what I needed when I cleared out all of the ego desires, which took time, right? Because there's a lot of conditioning around that. I then met my now husband, and my husband is exactly what I need, like exactly what I need. And yet, had I seen him on the street like 5 years ago, I would never have turned my head. And I don't mean that in a dark way. I just mean that like, you know what I mean? I was like, he doesn't have the job that I would have been like, oh, like I think I dated someone of his profession before, and I was like, I would never date them. They don't earn enough money. Like,
and jinx, right?
Stupid preconception. But I think I even saw his dating profile, and I was like, yeah, I would have swiped away on you. Like, I would never have swiped yes to a date. But the point is, he gives me emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, physically everything that I need. And I feel so safe with him, and I feel so seen by him, and I feel so heard by him, and I am free to live my full potential. And that is exactly what I need to be happy, right? It's not what I thought it would look like, but what I thought it would look like was probably never what I actually genuinely thought. It was like conditioning. It was conditioning by Hollywood films and, society and the expectations we have. It wasn't what my heart and soul actually needed. And so that's what I see so many people doing, because we get sucked into the narrative of this is how love should be and how it should look like. And that's not actually true.
Yeah. Well, you said so many things there that just follow up a lot of questions in my head, and like I can resonate, because it's like, number one, there's this conditioning or belief that if you are a woman of certain status, you should only date a certain status, or else people would judge you, or people, I say family or friends, right? Say, Nick, told you, so what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And then the second part of it, it's like, imagine if you're attracting the kind of men that you thought you need, and I'm just thinking from their point of view, they're also thinking the same way as us, right? Because we're attracting what we are, not what we want.
Yeah.
And then now, when you said about you attracted your husband, which is what you actually need, I imagine, like right now, I'm imagining like your husband would probably be an opposite of you, and it's like it should be like a person that's so open and just ready to love you no matter what the condition is. You could be, I don't know, you could be Oprah or I'm that person could be just a simple 9 to 5 guy, or just a guy that's I don't know, just simple that. But then because the baseline is, it's what you feel towards each other, and like you said, you're safe. He makes you feel safe, and you nurture him, therefore the relationship would work despite all of the characteristics that you bring to the table, not in terms of your personality, but your life.
100%. There's a balance. There's a balance.
Exactly,
right?
a balance.
And at the same time, it's funny because it's like, I mean, he was a teacher when I met him. He didn't want to be a teacher, right? He was like, he loves working with students. He loves young people, but it was like, he knew that it wasn't his full potential. And so in kind of living together and building our relationship together, I started building my business first. And because you can't really have two entrepreneurs building a business, I mean, financially, it's really difficult. He was supporting me, and he's been supporting me fulfill my vision first, because biological clock, if I want to have kids, which I don't know if I will, but even just kind of timeline wise, right? It's like, it makes sense. Let's help get Kat off the ground and get her business flying. And then it'll be his turn. And by that point, I'll be helping him. And it's like his ambitions are going to fly and his potential's going to fly, because I'm going to have done kind of the trial run and figured out a lot of things in business, right? To then help him. So it's not like it's not like, I think when I tell people what you need is different to what you want, people often freak out because they're like, oh no, I'm going to end up with like the homeless man down the road.
Yeah, yeah. Or the janitor. Yeah.
And it's
So
like,
there's nothing wrong
no,
with
that's
dating a
another,
janitor. It's fine. I mean,
but
yeah,
that's another like Hollywood like BS myth. Like, no, you don't have, it's not so
exactly.
black and white.
Yeah.
The things that we're looking at, what I'm trying to say is that the things that we're so hung up on, like I had a client who was so hung up on dating a man who was 6'2" plus. I remember saying to her, I was really trying hard. So I was like, oh my God, you're limiting your pool of dating so much. And she wanted him to be between 36 and 39, have no kids, but want kids, have X amount of million in his bank, and, be basically retired. And I remember I was like, your dating pool is literally probably like 20 people on the planet right now. It's like not a big dating pool. No, again, this has no mark on how happy you're actually going to be with a person. And actually what you probably need is something quite different. Not saying that he'll be poor, not saying that he'll be like, 2 foot tall or something, but like he'll be a perfectly wonderful match for you. But he's probably going to help you grow in ways that you need to grow. And you need someone who's going to help stimulate that, right? And having your kind of, tick list of like, I want him this and that, not necessarily going to help you grow. Because that's really the
Yes.
goal, helping each other grow. And like my husband helps me grow. He triggers the hell out of me sometimes. That's a good thing because I know I have to grow in all the right ways,
Yes. There's some
right?
healing that needs to be done here, or things that I
Yeah,
haven't thought of.
really.
Yeah. Which
God,
is,
yeah, like,
oh my God. Yeah,
and vice
yeah,
versa.
totally. We can,
So like the
I can
triggering
relate.
doesn't have to be a bad thing. When you're with the right person, it's going to feel bad because getting triggered is never fun. But when you're with the right person, the triggering's actually a good thing. It's a growing thing. It's a healing thing. When you're with the wrong person, triggering's awful. It's just, it's
Yeah.
not fun. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. I forgot. So I wanted to ask something, but it's like
Oh, no.
because it is about me relating to my own personal experiences, and also I have to remember that this is a podcast, and I need to make sure that
Call me after. Call me
I'm
afterwards. DM me, text me, whatever. We'll hang out.
I need to make sure that the listeners are actually Nicolette is actually delivering.
Yeah.
Okay, Kat, why hardworking high achievers struggle to build and maintain relationships?
Yeah, such a good question. I think firstly, part of it's kind of what I just talked about, the fact that because the expectations are often so much higher and the parameters of what a lot of high achievers want in relationship are a lot higher, right? Whether it's like the academic credentials or the financial or status, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That is where a lot of ego can get in the way of seeing who's actually going to be a good match for you and getting in the way of helping you connect with what you need, right? That's kind of one thing. So making a lot of kind of not the best decisions on the front end of getting into a relationship. I see a lot of very successful men actually dating a lot of very young women who are like beautiful and models and blah, blah, blah. But there's no intellectual connection and they get bored of them, right? And then they end up cheating. And I'm like, she wasn't what you needed. She wasn't what you needed.
Yeah.
That's like the first thing. And then it's the reality that like two things. One, a lot of hardworking high achievers are very intellectual and very up in their heads, right? Which is a very masculine energy. And a lot of them are, and I definitely do this, are so up in their heads that they disconnect from the neck down and they forget how to feel and to be, to rest and to be kind of more present in a relationship, right?
Be in the receiving end. Yes. The feminine energy.
And to feel, right? So when it comes to like growth and moving through the emotional growth of what a relationship is and intimacy, there's often a disconnect there. And then to add to it, a lot of hardworking high achievers are really, really busy. And so again, if we think about the windows of time that they have, I worked with couples, so I do a little bit of couples work, who, both people are working 70 hours a week minimum. And so if you really break down how much time they have left together after they've done the life admin, done the finances, gone to the gym, cooked dinner, done some cleaning, like at the end of it, they have like 30 minutes a day when they're both exhausted. And I've had this with my own husband as well, when I was like really in the throes of building my business at the beginning, and it's not fun. And yet it doesn't have to be terminal for the relationship. When moments like that happen, which they will, especially if you bring in children, it's really about knowing what you're solving for and being extremely intentional and focused with that time. Because a relationship can survive and even thrive with that kind of limited time in the short term. Again, you just have to kind of plan around it. And I see a lot of kind of the relational work out there doesn't really plan around this, And yeah, that was kind of what really got me passionate about, like, yeah, I want to help solve for this too. Because you shouldn't necessarily have to completely give up your career,
Yeah.
right? You probably don't want to be doing 70-hour weeks like all the time forever, and that's not going to be sustainable. But you shouldn't have to not be an entrepreneur, or not go after the promotion, or like not, have children and pursue a PhD, whatever it might be. Like, you can have both. You just have to be very, very disciplined around what you're solving for. And that requires attention and a bit of inner work.
I love that. I couldn't help but to think, like, so let's say when a couple actually say an overachiever, so they finally meet the love of their life, which is what they need. I couldn't help but to think, like, how is it for the men? Because right now we're both the female, but then from the perspective of the men, what do they see on the what do they perceive this high achieving women as? Like, they can be secure, or they can be, how do I say, is that avoidant, or they're not good, they could feel they're not good enough, and then therefore they play this push and pull with you, and then I'm giving you a sneak peek of what's happening, but
Okay.
yeah, your take. What is your take on that?
Yeah. So what you're trying to say is that when a man is around a high achieving woman, there can be
Triggering.
A sense of trigger and threat, right?
Yes, a threat. Threat is such a big word, but I didn't want to use that word, but to use it, a threat, like intimidated.
And we can all get threatened, right? Like, being threatened. I mean, heck, I can get threatened by, like, a woman looking at my husband in a bar. It doesn't mean it means
so
anything.
True. That is so true.
I think he's a catch. And
yeah.
Like, right?
That is true. No, but that's different. You see, that's the physical side, but then the intellectual, the stature,
the way So is the question, like, what is he thinking, or is the question what's going on there?
Yeah, what's going on there, and what is he thinking, and obviously also what is going on, what's in his head, how is he going to approach that? Although, because I know men don't really want to talk about this, like, but they either they date down, just some of them, they don't want to face that, and then just and then the women here is like, just let me freaking love you. Okay, just open up. Don't even care.
No, it's a great question. And I actually spent a lot of my time studying this during my master's degree and my undergrad. And really, okay, so my interpretation of it, and it's quite widely accepted interpretation, like, it's nothing radical, but we live in a patriarchal society. The society is still run by men, right? It has been run by men for, like, centuries. I wouldn't even say millennia, but a very, very long time. Maybe millennia, I don't know. A long time. And so, as part of that, the subtext, the assumption within that is that obviously men rule, and therefore men are superior. That is still the subtext. It is literally the subtext in every kind of dynamic that we're out there. Like, it is, right? At the end of the day, most big banks, most big corporations, most big organizations are still run by men, because men, the subtext, have more power, have more authority. Subtext beneath that is that they have, to an extent, more intellect and more potential. And so all of these things are, like, unfair and unequal, and it's not right, and blah blah blah. Like, we know all of this. That's not rocket science. But what it means for a lot of the men is that there is a internal belief system from a very young age that not only are they entitled, and I say that in a really loving way, I don't mean that in like, oh, you're entitled, but like no, of course, like, especially white men, right? The belief is that you are entitled to the world, and you are entitled to having what you want in the world. What you want in the world, we know from societal conditioning, is going to be having the lovely wife, who's going to take care of you and cook and clean, having the lovely family who are going to be devoted to you, having the job that you love and you thrive at, having your independence, having your land, having your freedom, kind of the American dream, right? That's a very kind of ingrained narrative. And all of that is like a lovely, lovely myth, to be honest, in this day and age. Because what we know economically, and this is just neoliberalism, is that no one really gets what they are so-called entitled to. The economy is hard. Very few people go home. Very few people kind of land. All of the things that men have been told, you're going to get this, and you're going to get the hot wife, and you're going to get the house. That doesn't happen so easily anymore. It's not a default anymore. Jobs are a lot harder. Succeeding in corporate's a lot harder. Building a business is a lot harder. Like economically, we've been in a bad economic situation for like decades, to be honest, right? So
Yeah.
all of these kind of entitlements aren't really a real thing anymore. And so no one talks about that. And then on top of it, you have, thank God, you have like women working and women thriving and women like getting more academic degrees than ever before and climbing the corporate ladder. And yes, there's still a pay gap, but like women are doing really, really incredibly well, and damn right, like we should be. And so are different like minority groups. And like, the world is getting better in that respect. And so this is a long-winded way of saying that for a lot of men, there's a disconnect between what they have been told on an unconscious level growing up of like, this is the world you're entering and this is what you're going to have, and the reality that's going on. And that disconnect is really difficult to talk about and articulate because no one's really talking about it. And it's kind of invisible almost because like, how can you even talk about that, right? Like, are you going to point at me? No, like, so it's not really talked about. And so a lot of men have this sense of threat because, like a lot of the power and the privilege that men have had for so long isn't actually a thing anymore, right? Like it is a thing, but it's not to the extent that they were promised. And I honestly think most men, I see this with a lot of my male clients, are really struggling financially. It's almost impossible to be a single breadwinner. Like the idea of having, a lovely housewife is a myth. Like not many people can afford it. And so there's this kind of sense of threat, but the threat is very vague and no one can really identify where it's coming from. And so who's going to get the blame on an unconscious level? This is all unconscious. The blame's going to be at the people that we love, right? So it's going to be partner, and if the partner's succeeding, the partner's doing well, she's high achieving, it must be her fault. And again, this isn't conscious. This isn't stuff that he's thinking probably.
Yeah.
It's like an unconscious kind of projection of, I'm not feeling so good in the world. I'm not feeling so secure in the world. I'm not feeling so safe in the world.
Yeah,
right.
That was the keyword there, secure.
Yeah. And all the things that I've been kind of promised from a young age as a little boy are freaking hard to get, and they don't understand how, and the world looks very different, right? And again, this isn't to blame men. Like I have so much compassion because like it's really hard out there.
It is.
Right? Super hard. But that's what's happening a lot of the time. And I've experienced this too. Like I've definitely experienced this with ex-boyfriends and seen it. And I mean, my gender dynamics suck. Like, it's so loaded.
Yeah, it is. And after, okay, so now when they're in that predicament, right? They and if they're not willing to maybe change or shift their perspective to seeing that the world is now different. I am not willing to face that, even though, let's say, I'm going to bring in the element of universe here, saying that okay, this is the person for you, but I'm not willing to change the narrative that have been with me for so long. I'm gonna forget you and then just stay sort of down and just settle. Look at the key, the word settle. But then you go into that knowing that okay, this is the easier route. And then I'm not gonna deal with that because now in this context she is gonna trigger me because of all these things and we've got to face the reality together. But then I don't want to deal with that. Let me just stay down and just settle. And then the vicious cycle happens because you're not gonna be happy because you're settling, and then broken marriages, broken family, and you're cheating, and then the kids see that. You see the cycle.
Exactly. And financial stress.
Precisely.
No, exactly. And really, it boils down to, and this is so much of the work that I do, recognizing that there's a lot of like junk in our heads. Again, that's not our fault. It's been put in there from conditioning, from our upbringing, from society, from everything. And that junk needs to be cleared out so that we can actually see reality more clearly. And so that we can relate to it. I don't know why.
Whoa. Preach to the choir, Kat. We have a third party here.
It's like, yes,
go.
Amazing. It's like we have to clear all of that out so we can see reality more clearly and connect to ourselves more clearly, right? Kind of beneath the BS that is in our heads, that's kind of living there rent free, putting us through all
Yeah.
of this pain, but actually see like, okay, who am I actually? What is it that I actually want and need? And who is either this partner in front of me or the kind of life that I want to live? And how can I make the most of that? So I'm actually happy, right? Because I think we all want to be happy at the end of the day. Like,
That's it.
yeah,
I love that. I love that, Kat. I love the work that you're doing. I think you're incredible.
thank you.
Thank you. We need more people like you.
And people like you. Love talking to you.
Shy. Sorry. Thank you. Okay,
Oh,
my mentor, because I'm going into the space of coaching. So
yeah.
and also hypnotherapy. So Marissa Peer, I don't know if you're familiar with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was like, don't just be open to receiving all the compliment, okay? You deserve it because you're worthy and you're enough.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Kat.
So welcome.
Okay, I think we did touch a little bit on this just now, but how will understanding gender dynamics help someone's love life?
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. Like we touched upon this a little bit. I think the simplest way that I would put it, though, is recognizing that, yeah, there are differences like in our biology. If we think about like differences in our sex and differences in the way that we relate and we communicate, there are differences. The biological differences are actually a lot smaller than we've been made out to think. A lot of the stuff is, again, conditioned. And the beauty of that information is that you can understand your partner more than you think. It's not like we're kind of two separate species who just completely can't understand each other. Like,
yes, there's this narrative that this is how men will think in this situation, and even if there is period of no contact, for example, he's out there drinking or just but then he's also gonna be, if he's really into you, he's gonna be as miserable as you are. And
100%.
they also have they also have they're humans, so they have feelings as well.
100%.
Yeah, sorry for cutting you off. Yes.
No, but 100%. And so, like, the gender dynamics work that I do is really about helping people understand that when we think about masculinity, femininity, and the different energies and different qualities, really most of us, I mean, all of us to an extent, are a balance of both energies. And I talk a lot about how the reason that we have such, like men are masculine and they're like this, and then women have to be feminine. It's all because the English language is actually very limited. And feminine energy is just an energy, like receiving energy, and masculine energy is just an energy. And we all have a blend of both. And yes, there are biological differences between us, absolutely. And we want to work with those. And at the same time, he's going to love the same way that you love, right? He's going to feel the same way that you feel. The grief is going to be the same grief that you have. And so we can build more intimacy that way, right? And so it's really kind of dismantling all of this like BS again about like, oh, I have to be like this if I want to attract a woman. I have to be like that if I want to attract a man. It's like, yeah, to an extent, like there are kind of conditioned ways that we find each other attractive. Again, it's much simpler than we think.
Exactly.
Like much simpler.
Exactly. If we treat them as us, and again, there are biological differences, but then like I mentioned, like you mentioned as well, they're gonna feel the same way, unless they're playing with you, then that's the whole different story. Yeah, but then if hurtful things were said, hurtful exchanges, of course, and those things will trigger him or her. Yeah, both parties would be miserable after that, I don't know, argument. It's not like, okay, I'm gonna go out and party, and maybe they would party, but they're gonna be ruminating about it.
Exactly.
Right. And it's not to say like, okay, because men is like this and they're, say, emotionally disconnected, they don't get attached to, as compared to women, as fast as we as women do. That doesn't mean that their feelings are lesser than ours.
Yes, exactly.
Whew. Okay, Kat, there is this, I don't know, is this a guarantee, or maybe not a guarantee? How to find your ultimate match in 90 days? A target.
Yeah, it's a time frame that I've seen it happening with a few people when you do work. Yeah, I now typically say like 6 months. Like my program is 6 months because I realize people need time to integrate, right?
Yeah.
And 3 months, 90 days is like catchy and it gets attention and it can absolutely work. And at the same time, getting into the relationship is like the beginning of it all. Like you need time after that. So
That's
which is
actually really true.
right, like, and then marriage, like a whole nother thing.
Yes.
In a good way though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying 90, you're saying typically 180 days.
Yeah, 180 days. That's kind of my signature program. It's called the Successfully in Love method. Got it trademarked, which is cool.
Ooh. Oh, that's ours that registered.
Yeah, the
That's what I
registry, yeah.
meant. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's like 3 phases over 6 months. Again, you can do it in 3 months, but I just like to give everyone 6 months. And it's 3 phases. You got the liberation phase where you're clearing out the kind of the
Old
junk.
beliefs.
Yeah, the old junk, clearing that. And I do that, like I get asked a lot of like, how is this different to any other program? It's different because I'm not here to like BS you.
Lecture you.
Like, I'm here to actually help you clear it out efficiently in a way that like gets the job done, and then you can move on with your life, right? Like I don't want people, like, again, if you work with Marissa, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So yeah, so it's about getting to the root cause, using neuroscience, clear it out, get it done, move on. That's phase 1. Phase 2 is behavioral science, getting clear on like, what do you need? Now that you've cleared out all of that junk, you can think more clearly. So who are you? What do you need? What kind of gender dynamics going to work for you? What is the science of healthy dating for you? Like, how do you identify compatibility for you? And then phase 3 is all about integrity. So now that you've cleared out the junk, got clear on what it is that you need and what's going to work for you, how can we realign your life to be in greater integrity with that? Doing little micro changes and micro adjustments in kind of every arena of your life so that you're living your best life now. And you're not waiting for the partner. You're not kind of, waiting to be healed, quote unquote, like you are healed. It's about start living your best life. And I met my husband when I went to a music festival on my own. This is
Oh,
right? And
wow.
yeah, I
Which
realized,
one? I'm curious. Which music festival?
I don't know if you'd know, it was one in London, and it was like an above and beyond trance festival.
Okay, because I had plans of going to Mysteryland, but then
Cool.
but I had to postpone it this year though. Maybe next year. But yeah, I'm into
Amazing.
festivals as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I went on my own. Like I realized that music's really important to me, and yeah, I was living in London and I was kind of miserable, and I'd gone through the process myself, and I was like, I'm gonna live my best life. I'm gonna do all the things that I love to do, because
Ooh, I love
even
it.
though I alone and be a crazy cat lady, then I'm gonna live my best life, right? Like I love cats.
Yeah, I have a cat who's actually staring at me right now.
Yeah, and so I started like orientating my life, and one of those things was I went to a music festival, and I remember I was like having a little pre-drink from a little can on the tube in London, just like pre-drinking on my own at like midday, dressed in my little like festival gear. And I was like in my, like I think I was 33 at the time, and just going in there, going to London.
But you're not 33?
No, I'm older. Thank you.
Kat, I swear we look like we're the same age because I'm 33.
Oh, amazing. 33 was a really good age for me. It was challenging, like professionally, but it was a great. Got married that year. Like, yeah, it's great. Yeah, I went to this festival and I was just like dancing away on my own, having a great time. And then I met him. He came up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder, and I was so happy someone was talking to me. I was like, hey, give him a big hug. He thought I was a bit crazy, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. Oh my God, I can imagine it. Oh my God.
And I will tell the listeners that like he lived in Canada at the time. He was just visiting London.
See, but you see, you're still attracting that long distance.
I know, I was thinking
exactly,
that,
yeah. But then you've gotten clear of what you need. The distance doesn't matter. Yeah, the distance didn't matter.
No, exactly. Because I kid you not, like I remember that day we danced together, got each other's numbers, we were texting all night, and then we had like 3 dates before we went. No, 2 dates. 2 dates. No, 3 dates. But 3 dates before we went back to Canada. And in those 3 dates, I remember thinking like, I'm probably never going to see him again. He doesn't come to Canada. I'm just living my life, living my best life. Probably one night stand, like whatever, like And I was kind of just like whatever. But I remember at the end of the first date, I was like, holy cow, boy,
this could be it.
Yeah, and I remember voice tweeting my friends being like, oh boy,
damn,
well, the universe
help
sent me
me.
that, and I'm either going to be marrying him or someone like him, because he's not my type, and he's not not what I want. But damn, I felt good on that date, and we had like a 12-hour date, and yeah, I was like, I felt so safe, I felt so comfortable, I felt like I was coming home, and it was a really wonderful, wonderful time. And then we had 3 more dates, and by the end of the third date, I was like, God, what have I done? And then we, we did long distance for 3 months, but it was very clear that we weren't going to do long distance forever. Like that was kind of like a no. We both quit our jobs and we had no plan. We were just like, we're just going to take a sabbatical and figure it out because we're both prioritizing love at this point in our lives, right? He was like, 39, I think. And yeah, we were just like, we're just going to prioritize love and see if this works because we want to see if it works. And then I started building a business and, it did work, obviously. And everything kind of unfolded. And again, my point is like, it wasn't what I wanted, but I got to be an entrepreneur in the process through necessity, right? Which I would have been way too scared to do 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I would have been in my little corporate handcuffs, thinking I've got like the big paycheck and I'm comfortable and I've got my little white picket fence and blah, 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 blah. And here I was like traveling around Colombia with him, staying in random Airbnbs and being like, I'm with this I met like 6 months ago, building a business because I want to have cash flow. I don't know what the heck I'm
the
doing.
happiest, right?
Yeah, I was like, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't like easy, right? Like it was hard traveling. There were like many hard things, but the relationship wasn't hard. The relationship flowed. And even when we had arguments and fights and, things were kind of obviously challenging because every relationship has that, it was different to the others because at no point, like touch wood, like no point did I ever think that he's going to leave me, we're going to break up. It was just like, this is part of the process. We're getting to
differences. We're getting to know each other.
Connecting. Exactly. Yeah. And again, I got to build a business. I got to like now live in Spain and all of these incredible things.
Oh my God.
I've always dreamed of.
Yeah.
Never thought I could get, but you get them when you get what you need, right? So that's the wisdom for your listeners. Go get what you need.
Yeah.
You will be.
And trust.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Trust the process.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. I love that. Okay, Kat. I am mindful of the time as well. Why building relationships is the most important skill you'll ever learn in work and in your personal life?
These questions, so good. Well, I will say that 2 things. One, when we do work on ourselves, personal development, right? Like we're doing a lot of like therapy and personal growth and reading the books and everything. It's helpful. And at the same time, and I've seen this a lot in my life, and I did the same thing. We can think that we're like cured and healed and perfect and everything's great when we work on ourselves, and then you get into a relationship and you're like, oh,
that's some triggers here. Oh my God, I cannot take it.
Right? It's like,
I thought I'm healed.
It's not working
exactly.
out.
I'm healed and I don't want to deal with this, but it's wrong.
Right?
This is the reason. Yes, it must be them. It's their fault because I'm completely healed.
Exactly.
I'm whole here. I'm above and superior than you.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. I don't want needs to go to therapy. And so what I learned the hard way in my first engagement was like, that's really helpful, useful stuff. And you need to do relational work. You need to do work on yourself in light of your relationships because everything in your life is a relationship. You are in relationship to yourself, right? Then you, to survive, are in relationships with others. And how you are in the relationships is like the most important thing because it dictates the quality of your life. Because we can't survive alone. Like we need relationships. And your relationship with yourself, right, is so crucially important. But your relationship to yourself in light of your relationship with others and like, the anxiety that you might feel or the insecurity or the comparison that you might feel, the not being good enough, whatever it is, the abandonment, like all of this stuff in relation to others is where the rubber hits the road on your ability to actually kind of grow and develop and mature and feel better about yourself. So that's the really important work. And when you do that, you're developing the skills of intimacy. And those skills, like the intimacy skills with yourself, is where happiness lies. Because the more intimate you can be with yourself, the more self-accepting, self-aware, curious with yourself, accepting all of your emotions and everything, the happier you become. So to me, it's like, yeah, personal development is really, really important. And this is a form of personal development, but it's like do it in light of the relationships if you want to go really, really deep and get the results really fast.
That's the holy grail.
Yeah. I love that.
I love it. I love that. So Kat, what is next for you?
What is next? Well, got a group program, which I am looking to kind of fill. I'm curious like how intimate I'm going to keep it. At the moment, there's like 5 people in there. I'll probably kind of get to like, I'm not sure how many people, and then start another group. But what I'm consciously doing, I'm still doing one-on-one work with my program and my methodology. I found that one-on-one is less effective than group work because every single person I worked with one-on-one has felt lonely, anxious, and ashamed of their struggle. And what I know from psychology is that we eradicate shame by sharing it with compassionate witnesses, by shining a light upon the parts of us that feel like the shadow, right? And so when I saw these incredible, brilliant people, all of them feeling alone and ashamed and anxious, I was like, I need to bring them all together so that they can see, right?
Yeah, there's a community.
Absolutely. And like, you're doing the work, people. Like, you're here doing the work. You're like not a cut above the rest. I shouldn't say that, but like, you're leaning in and you want more for yourselves, and like, well done, and build a community and build friendships. And so I have this group program, and it's still ultimately one-on-one inside the group. Like, the group calls, which we have every week, and they're like 2 hours. You can drop in and out. You don't have to be there for full 2 hours, but you get to have that one-on-one access to, like, with me, right? So it's still kind of one-on-one coaching with me. But the benefit is you can listen to other people's coaching, and you can see that your problems are not like weird,
unique to you.
No, exactly. And you can hear other people and kind of get different perspectives. And there's so much learning to be done from sharing. And then you get access to me Monday to Friday as well. So like, it is still very much a solo journey with your own vulnerability, but you have the safety and the companionship of the community to really help you. So I'm looking to grow that and take more people through that and help them.
I love that. I think you're the second guest. Most of my guests are coaches themselves. So they also said that there's one, although I love one-to-one, but I think group coaching is the most effective.
Yeah.
Because we are wired to connect.
Yeah.
And when we see somebody having some problem, even though it's not ours, but somehow when they start sharing, they say, oh, I think that part is similar to what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And therefore I can sympathize, I can empathize, and then we build based on that. Yeah. And why I'm saying this is because I'm also in the midst of figuring out my own coaching thing, and I'm learning as I'm talking to people like yourself. And this is why I love podcasting. and I can, it's like a gift to the universe right now. It's from the universe to you, to me, and say, okay, Nicolette, you've been racking your brain about this, but then right now you probably can set it this way. So thank you. Thank you for that, Kat. Okay, Kat, a few more questions and then what is your heart's greatest wish?
To spread more love in the world. Like, there needs to be more love in the world, right? Because I do believe that when people heal their own relationships with themselves and they love themselves and are able to love others properly, I honestly think a lot of problems in the world wouldn't be around, right? Truly, I think so much of it would get solved. And that's not me being like woo-woo or weird. It's like, the neuroscience clearly shows that people who are loving themselves and securely attached and feeling good are more successful, achieve more good things, right? Like, they have less conflict, they're less triggered, they have less anger, they have less of the kind of more difficult emotions. And ultimately, like, my belief is that people want to do good in the world. And so let's have more of that than like angry war starting. No, we don't need that.
Yes,
right?
yes. And you're clearing your head. As to where you want to go and what you want to achieve and who you want to be with.
Totally.
Do you have a mantra that you live by?
Ooh, good question. I think the mantras change. They change kind of with whatever I'm exploring. Yeah, they change. So I actually don't like it. They're all kind of like positive mantras, right? I know the big one when I was doing a lot of my healing work and becoming more securely attached was that I am safe. Like, I just had to, for me at least, it was like a really, really big one to keep repeating, just that I'm safe and I'm not in a state of threat. Like, I'm actually okay. That was a huge one for me to learn to embody.
Thank you. Is there anything that keeps you up at night, or do you sleep well?
I do have weird dreams. What keeps me up at night? The cats. We foster cats in Ibiza. My God, they're like demons who come alive at night.
I can vouch for that. Yes.
Oh, what they're doing in there. Yeah, we try and like help rescue like stray cats off the streets and like
How many do you have?
Well, we had 3, and I think my husband would kill me if we ever had 3 again. We've now got 2. I would have like 10, but I think that's not a good look for my brand. So, yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to judge. I mean, cats, it's different. It's not the same.
It's any
You're
animal
a
as well.
coach. Yeah, you're a coach, and you also love cats. So why
Yeah,
can't that
I love
two
all
things
animals.
coexist? Yeah.
I love all
Anyway,
animals. I'd have like
yeah.
little chickens. I'd have that like little farmyard in my flat. And
So
a cleaner.
turkeys running around.
Yeah. A sanitary farmyard. But yeah, what keeps me up at night? Honestly, not much. The only thing I think that keeps me up at night is I'm kind of navigating entrepreneurship and I'm like moving countries and relocating and like being a bit of a digital nomad. Taxes? Like, not like
Yes.
worrying about paying them, but
Yes,
just like,
that's true. We travel. No,
yeah,
sorry, we relocate because of the taxes.
yeah. It's not like I don't mind paying them. Like I love paying them because I'm like, yeah, as long as it's not going to like arms and
I mean,
weapons, which a lot of it is.
yes. As long as it's going back to the things that I'm gonna use, like the roads or whatever.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Good
The
problem. Like keeping my,
healthcare. Yeah.
but it's more just like, am I doing it right? Is my accountant good?
Is it
Okay.
am I maximizing or am I minimizing my taxes?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
what's
I think the
okay.
worst thing to sleep at night, but it's a good problem to have, right? Like I will take that.
It is.
I will take that.
Any time of the day. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Kat. If you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
Well, I can see the words "you are worthy" staring at me. I love that. What would the quote be? I think it's similar to the "you are worthy." I think it's like you deserve to have what your heart really needs in life, and you can have it because you absolutely can, right?
Mhm.
Like it's like 2024. We live in a world where not most of the population, but like my hunch is if you're listening to the podcast, you can have everything, right? Even listening to the podcast, like you are so privileged to have access to like
That's true.
right? Streaming, like if you're listening on your phone, like you have a phone, like
Yeah.
like so many incredible things. And I think if you have access to the internet and you can afford to pay for the internet, I mean, really, like you're doing pretty good.
Mhm.
You absolutely deserve to have what you need in your heart. I mean, everyone deserves to have what they need in their heart. Everyone on the planet.
Beautiful. And there you have it, guys. You heard it from Katarina herself. Before we close off, Katarina, I personally, I would like to thank you for the work that you're doing and for the world and for advancing every step of the way despite the challenges, creating trails for those that will come after you. So for our listeners that's listening to this has been that one podcast with that controversial name, You're Worthless. Read that again. The juxtaposition of your very soul. If you find yourself thinking that you are worthless, you're not alone. Chances are you're not alone. But more importantly, ask yourself a level deeper. If I'm worthless, then why the heck am I here? It is because your soul have chosen to be here energetically, all the way from the ethers. And for that reason itself, you are worthy and you are enough. This has been Katarina Polonska, your guest of the day, and Nick Nieras, your host, signing off. Thank you, Kat.
Thank you. That was awesome.